Welcome back to The Explainer. Listen, if you're a focused learner looking to understand the mechanics, the intense pressure, and just the sheer unbelievable ingenuity of real-world problem solving, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're looking at a completely unbelievable but entirely true story of a mid-air rescue that went down in Saint Augustine, Florida. I mean, it sounds like something literally straight out of a Hollywood blockbuster, but every single detail we're about to cover actually happened. We're going to break down the mechanics of the crisis, the physics behind the rescue attempts, and ultimately, how human quick thinking completely saved the day.
Okay, let's dive into this. I want you to put yourself in that cockpit for a second. How do you land a plane when the wheels won't come down and you're out of gas? I mean, these are absolute, literal life or death stakes. We've got a pilot hovering above the runway, dealing with the jammed landing gear on one side, and a fuel tank that is practically bone dry. There's no time to fly to another airport, and there's absolutely no time to just sit back and wait for a miracle. They had to create their own miracle right there on the tarmac.
Section 1. A mid-air emergency. So who are the key players in this real-life thriller? Up in the air, we've got pilot Scott Gordon flying a small aircraft known as a Piper Arrow. And down on the ground, we have operations manager Jim Mosher and mechanic Joe Lippo. The whole crisis kicks off when Gordon realizes his right landing gear is completely jammed. To get a better look, Gordon actually performs a low-altitude flyby, buzzing straight past the terminal. This gave Joe Lippo and the ground crew a chance to physically see the underside of the aircraft and evaluate this terrifying mechanical failure in real time. And the central puzzle came down to one terrifyingly small measurement: 4 inches. As the plane flew past, Joe Lippo could see that the right wheel was extending a mere 4 inches from the wheel well before stopping completely dead. It wasn't just stuck, it was tantalizingly close to deploying, but absolutely useless for a safe landing. If Gordon tried to touch down with the gear only deployed 4 inches, the right wing would immediately strike the runway, potentially causing a catastrophic crash.
But here's the real kicker. They didn't just have a mechanical problem, they had a severe time deficit. The Piper Arrow is dangerously low on fuel. Actually, the source material describes the plane as running only on fumes. So the pilot couldn't just circle the airport for hours while the ground crew brainstormed over coffee, They had minutes. This severe limitation forced the team to think radically, pushing the absolute boundaries of what was possible in aviation rescue.
Plan A, the flatbed trailer.
Their initial plan was incredibly audacious. The ground crew decided to tow a flatbed trailer down the runway at 90 miles per hour. The goal? For pilot Scott Gordon to perfectly match the speed of the truck, gently lower the aircraft, land his 2 functioning wheels on the asphalt, and rest that damaged right wing directly onto the moving flatbed trailer. I mean, it required absolute precision synchronization between a flying airplane and a speeding truck.
But here is the crushing setback. The plan had to be aborted. The truck simply could not maintain the speed necessary to keep the airplane airborne and safely matched with the trailer. At 90 miles per hour, aerodynamics and ground friction are just fighting against you. The truck couldn't sustain the velocity and they had to call it off. And this is exactly where real-world problem solving gets tested. When your best plan fails, the fuel is almost entirely gone and the clock is relentlessly ticking.
Let's move to and see how this builds. First, we have the gear jamming in midair. Then the fuel drops to a critical level. Third, the highly ambitious flatbed attempt completely fails, and that forces them into step 4, pivoting to a much more hazardous strategy. They've exhausted the logical, albeit extreme options. Now they've got to rely on raw speed, perfect timing, and incredible physical courage.
The sunroof solution. All right, let's break down this genuinely terrifying 3-step maneuver. Step 1, the crew swaps the heavy truck for a turbocharged sedan, driving directly beneath the flying plane at speeds of 70 to 90 miles per hour down the runway. Step 2 requires nerves of absolute steel from the pilot. Scott Gordon has to fly his Piper Arrow and hold his altitude at exactly 7 feet above the ground. 7 feet. And step 3, mechanic Joe Lippo stands up inside the speeding car and reaches his upper body straight out through the open sunroof, reaching for the belly of the hovering airplane.
Reaching up at 90 miles an hour, Lippo grabs the top of the jammed wheel. He gives it a massive pull, but the first tug fails. It just wouldn't budge. With the runway rapidly running out, he recalled that he had to, quote, put everything into it. He grabbed the gear a second time, using literally every ounce of his strength against the roaring wind, and gave it one final, desperate heave. And the gear snapped loose. It locked fully into position. Thanks to that massive physical exertion, Gordon was able to pull up, circle back, and make a completely safe landing on all its gear shortly after.
The viral truck myth.
and this brilliantly illustrates reality versus fiction. On the left, we have our real rescue, a small Piper Arrow, a fast sedan, and a human mechanic manually pulling the gear into place. But on the right, you might actually remember a widely circulated viral video showing a Nissan Frontier pickup truck catching a massive commercial airliner by literal brute force, taking the entire weight of the plane right in its bed. Well, sources clarify that this pickup truck video is not real. It is a highly fictionalized CGI car commercial.
Automotive experts and fact-checkers have thoroughly debunked this viral commercial. The physics are completely implausible. Think about it. A commercial airliner weighs tens of thousands of pounds. Dropping that immense amount of force directly onto the bed of a standard consumer pickup truck moving at high speed, it wouldn't save the plane. It would instantly result in the total, catastrophic failure of the truck's suspension and tires. The truck could be crushed flat in a fraction of a second. The Saint Augustine rescue worked precisely because the car didn't catch the plane's weight at all. It merely provided a moving platform for a human mechanic to fix the issue.
Which leaves us with this final thought. Why are we so quick to believe physically impossible CGI commercials, like a pickup truck catching an airliner, when real-life human ingenuity, like a mechanic reaching through a sunroof at 90 miles an hour to manually fix a landing gear, is actually far more compelling? The truth of human courage and problem-solving under extreme pressure beats Hollywood fiction every single time. Keep that in mind next time you see a viral video. And remember the incredible true story of the St. Augustine sunroof rescue. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.